Hello, world. It's John Pinto, your roving realtor, bon vivant, video blogger, and I am here with Ted Stephanos at HomeGuard Natural Hazard Disclosures. It's a mouthful. How you doing, Ted?
I'm doing good, John. How you doing today?
Very good. And Rafael Betances from HomeGuard Roof Termite Home Inspection. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Mello Roos. I'll put this in a little context and then turn it over to you, Ted. When people ask us about property taxes, we always tell them your property taxes are going to be about 1.25% of the sales price in 2 installments, divided half and half, once for March and due in April, once in November, due in December. The property taxes do go up 2% a year under Prop 13, but every now and then we'll see little bond measures added onto it for mosquito abatement, school districts, college districts, what have you. And then we will also see Mello Roos on the preliminary title report. Can you explain to our viewing audience what are the implications of Mello Roos?
Sure. Well, the Mello Roos Act passed about in the 1980s, and it was a way to fund infrastructure for a lot of new developments in California. So areas where you will see new, and I mean new like now, like in the past 20 years or so, up until now to current, many of those newer developments are going to have what's called a Mello Roos district, where just the owners of the property that are benefiting from those improvements are the ones paying the tax. So it's not a statewide tax. It's not a countywide tax or citywide tax. It's just a tax that gets paid for by those homeowners that are benefiting from those improvements. So it could go neighborhood by neighborhood, and these taxes can, like I said, pay for infrastructure. So it could be a school, could be fire department, police department, the new library, parks and recreation, things like that. Now, sometimes you can have a voter approved Mello Roos tax. Usually those are going to be pretty small taxes. Like in Santa Clara County, we have a county library tax, but it's only about $30 a year. Some where you have the significant Mello Roos taxes are in newer developments. So those could be upwards of $1,000 to $1,500 to almost $9,000, $10,000 a year. Pretty significant.
And do they sunset after a certain number of years?
Yeah, they do after 20, 25 or 30, 35 years. So we're actually coming up on our first phase of sunset taxes. And so that's supposed to be happening in the next couple of years. So we're going to see what's going to happen, because if those Mello Roos taxes go away, where they're going to come up with the new money to fund, adding on to, or we're having now aging infrastructure, whether it's schools or libraries, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen over the next 20 years, because once those taxes go away, then how are they going to find money to pay for improvements?
So when you're looking at the Mello Roos disclosure, will it also include a sunset date on that Mello Roos assessment?
Yeah, every tax report we provide will have the beginning and end date of the taxes, what the taxes go to pay for, and what's critical is also foreclosure clauses, because if the homeowner decides not to pay these Mello Roos taxes, they can be foreclosed on sometimes within 90 to 180 days.
Oh, that's a pretty quick trigger.
Yeah.
And where would you see the default posted? Would it be on the preliminary title report?
You mean aside from our report, the preliminary title, the title company will have that information as well, yeah.
And your report will have the delinquency?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I don't think
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a delinquent Mello Roos. I guess because it's generally collected in the property taxes. But now that you mention it, if it is a foreclosure and they haven't been paying their property taxes, they haven't been paying their Mello Roos. So that sounds like a very ominous situation, especially if you're buying a foreclosure and you decide to go principal to principal and not get proper title insurance. That sounds like a real problem.
Yeah, it definitely can be. Now, you know, I would suspect, the areas where you do most of your real estate transactions in San Jose, you're not going to have too many Mello Roos districts. So maybe this hasn't come up much for you, but like in the Silver Creek area, you do have Mello Roos taxes that are in the area of $1,500 a year that are school taxes. So I don't know if that's come up in your transactions, but like what you're saying, Willow Glen, those areas that you're really familiar with, you don't see Mello Roos taxes, so it doesn't really come up.
Right.
And especially the significantly high ones. So the area called Windermere, which is in San Ramon, it's on the east side of San Ramon, brand new development. Some of those homeowners are paying upwards of $8,000 a year in additional taxes for Mello Roos.
That's real money. That's real money.
A lot of money, yeah. And one thing I also want to touch on too is the 1915 Bond Act, because so this is a disclosure of not only just Mello Roos districts, but also what's called 1915 Bond Act. There's a Bond Act from the year 1915 that developers started using to circumvent the negative stigma attached to the Mello Roos name. So they might advertise in banners that would say no Mello Roos, but instead of Mello Roos, they're using an old 1915 Bond Act to find the money to pay for these the infrastructure. So several years ago, it was not only the Mello Roos disclosure, but also the 1915 Bond Act was associated with that as well now. So both of those have to be disclosed.
So you have illustrated to us yet again that something as innocent as a Mello Roos, the more you unpack, the more there is to unpack. So words to the wise for buyers buying a property. What would you emphasize to them when they see Mello Roos? And if there is no Mello Roos, what other bond measures they should be looking out for, and how should they interpret it?
Yeah, well, the tax report we provide is usually about 12 pages long. Okay, so not only does it, even if you're not within a Mello Roos district or 1915 Bond Act district, those will be disclosed on the tax report. But there's also a breakdown of taxes. So like you're talking earlier about mosquito abatements and other school taxes, that's all going to be broken down so they can see where their tax money is going. There's also other items in the tax report that have value, such as the there's, what do you call it, the transfer taxes.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's that's another thing, that the private transfer tax, that's something that
The private transfer tax.
yeah that your title company, your title rep will help with that, but that is something that can come up as well, that can really throw a wrench into the whole process.
A wealth of information, and all the more reason for listing agents to order their roof inspection, termite inspection, home inspection, preliminary title report, and natural hazards disclosure report before the property goes on the market, and actually read the documents. Would you say that's an accurate declaration?
Yeah, that's reading the whole thing is really important. And nowadays, when I first started, the reports were 1 or 2 pages long. Now they're 35 or 40 pages long. So there's a lot of information in there. We're always available to help. You can find us on our website at HomeGuard.com to help navigate you through these reports, because there's a lot in there. It's not just natural hazard, but we go way beyond the scope of that.
Rafael, aren't you glad that you witnessed this video on Mello Roos, since the next time you're at a cocktail party, you can sound smart when everybody starts talking about Mello Roos?
Exactly. I just make sure that I start talking about after the second drink. That's when
It just these videos are unbelievable because the more you unpack, the more that needs to get unpacked, and the more we find out, the more we realize we don't know. It's just amazing. So, Ted, for people that want to access your website and the various tabs on this subject, where would you direct them?
Yeah, well, they would go to homeguard.com and click on the natural hazard disclosure portion of the report and of the website, and then we can, there's all kinds of information. And one other thing that I wanted to touch on too, with the tax report is the PACE, the PACE loans that we also have that in our tax report too. So that is the property assessed clean energy issue. So this is a way for homeowners to get a very low cost loan for solar projects or any energy improvement projects onto the home. And theoretically, it becomes a tax on the property and it would be assumed by the new buyer as a tax. But the problem is that lenders will not want this on, they want that cleared off the title before escrow closes. So again, that could throw a whole wrench into the loan process as well, because if the seller can't afford to pay off their $30,000 loan, then they may not be able to sell the property. So PACE loans are, great if you're going to stay in your property, stay at your home for a long time. But if you only plan to be there a few years and leave, you may want to have a backup plan instead of using PACE for funding energy improvement. That could be a great gray water system onto the home. It could be a solar. It could even be wind, anything.
Well, that is very helpful, understanding that an existing PACE loan could be a hand grenade that everybody's stepping on, or a landmine, a real estate landmine. Thank you for adding that on, because that is important. We don't run into it that often, but we do see it, and it's something that you can't ignore because it can blow up your transaction.
Yeah, it's really big. When I do presentations in Sacramento, you see a lot of the agents will moan and groan about it because it has thrown wrenches into into the loan process. It's huge in Riverside, Inland Empire, and also up in Santa Rosa as well.
Good advice. Good advice. And Rafael, if people want to contact you regarding more information on roof termite home inspections, where would you direct them?
Absolutely. You guys can either call me or you can text me at 707-616-8762, or you can email me at rbetances@homeguard.com.
Well, thank you for unpacking everything on that Mello Roos subject. The more we talk, the more we needed to go down multiple rabbit holes. But all good things must end. Thank you again, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next page.